1. Prior to this month at this restaurant, the servers were responsible for running their own food, getting their own drinks, and doing much of the back-of-house side work. The side work took about an hour to an hour and a half. But in exchange, we had next to no tip out. We tipped out the bartenders 1% of our sales, and were encouraged, i.e. forced, to tip out another 1% to the expo. But starting this week, the chain in my state decided to start a teamwork evolution. Basically, they took the servers with the worst customer service scores and some to-go employees and moved them into the brand new position of food runner. They get our drinks, run 80% of our food. That's not a random stat. I was told they're responsible for running 80% of the food, and we are responsible for the other 20%, and do the back-of-house side work that we used to be responsible for. And in exchange, we now have to tip out 4% of our total sales, 5 if you include the illegally encouraged tip out to the expo. Now, I get that tip outs have long been a part of this industry, but it was never a part of my job at this restaurant until this week. I had no say. From one day to the next, with no warning, my pay got slashed. I don't mind running my own food or getting my drinks or doing side work. So now, without any prior notice, I'm making 20 to 30% less money. They're taking an absolutely insane amount of money out of my check from one day to the next. Last Friday, I tipped out 70 of the 230 I made, money that previously would have been mine. We all know that we don't have a 20% tip average on all tables for the night, and this isn't an expensive restaurant. And this is in an area that has a lot of people from other countries who don't tip or understand tipping culture. I went from averaging a 14 to 17% tip to now getting 10 to 13% after tip out, and it's not worth it. I'm so upset. My management team is awesome, and we all know that management can make or break a work experience in this industry. I love my coworkers to death. I'm so sad to leave. And I know that we are so short-staffed that me leaving will seriously be an issue until they can replace me. But I'm a grad student with bills to pay and a special needs child, and I just can't afford a 20 to 30% pay cut. I can't afford to suddenly give up a fourth of my previously steady paycheck that I've relied on for 4 years. So I've been looking for new jobs all week, as has most of the staff. They're going to lose their entire staff over this. I feel like this is a cheap and low way for this corporation to get what they want by shuffling people around and paying less people. They've cut the wait staff in half since we have food runners now, and making the servers pay for it. They basically cut their staff and thus payroll in half by putting way less servers on the floor, and thus making us pay the food runners. The company is saving money while we all just lost a huge chunk of our paychecks. I'm frustrated, and I'm fucking pissed. I'm really pissed, guys. After 4 years working for a company, you should get a raise, not a fuck you because we can pay cut overnight. And now I'm in the position of having to accept 20 to 30% less money overnight with no warning, money that I budgeted and relied on, or risk leaving and ending up in a toxic restaurant work environment with coworkers and managers that suck. I'm not going to lie. I've been petty about it. I've refused to run a single beverage or plate most of the time because if I'm now going to, overnight, be giving up 20 to 30% of my established pay for someone else to run that shit, I'm just not doing it. I'm salty as fuck about this, and maybe I need a reality check. Maybe I need someone to tell me you're a server, you're lucky to get tips at all, you shouldn't complain about having to do something as routine as tipping out, and your lost income doesn't matter. So please, any and all commentary or advice welcome, but don't be a wanker. Am I being a diva by saying that I'd rather quit than tip 20 to 30% of my previous income to a food runner? If it had been this way all along, I wouldn't care, but my pay just got slashed and I can't just eat that cost. I relied on my income, and I don't feel like I should take this laying down. 2. I work at an upscale white tablecloth restaurant, and we recently had 3 employees quit without notice. All were dependable and diligent employees. I have since had conversations with 3 different managers. Here I will refer to them as A, B, and C, about the circumstance of their quitting, and was quite surprised by these managers' responses, with 2 of them stating they would never rehire or even give references purely based on the fact that they quit without notice. The first girl worked here for 2 months. She quit via text minutes before her shift. Manager A was annoyed about it at the time and gave the girl a slight lecture via phone call, but we quickly moved on and Manager A seemed neutral towards her at the point that we were talking about it. When I mentioned the girl to Manager B, he didn't even remember who she was at first and took quite a bit of prompting to recall. In this girl's case, we did not discuss eligibility for rehire or references. The second girl worked here for 1.5 years. She was especially hard-working and an excellent employee. She quit in protest because her boyfriend was fired unjustly. She finished out her shift and stated that she would not be returning. When I talked to Manager B about it, I was taken aback by the vitriol with which he spoke of her. He stated that she would never work for this company again, and it wouldn't be right to give her a reference because she was fired. He actually attempted this bit of revisionist history, and I had to correct him that she quit. I asked him why her 1.5 years of excellent contribution to the workplace didn't warrant eligibility for rehire, or at least a reference, and he said it's literally only because she quit without notice. To be fair, she was the main person doing her job, and we were especially screwed when she quit, given that we were still scrambling to cover her position. In my opinion, it would be foolish not to rehire her if she called and apologized and asked for her job back today. The third girl worked there for 4 months. She found another job and put in her 2 weeks. She called out on her last day. When I was speaking to Manager C about it, he stated that he would never rehire her or even give reference purely because she called out on her last day. I was shocked by this. I quipped, "What if she was actually sick?" He coldly replied, "She wasn't." He's almost surely right, but to be honest, what is the difference between calling out on her last day and calling out on any other random day? This one struck me as especially petty. The girl put in her notice period, and for all intents and purposes, she served it. If you hadn't already guessed it, my restaurant doesn't treat its employees very well. I think it's a lot for them to expect the courtesy of 2 weeks' notice in the first place, but these recent conversations got me wondering just how much that notice period, or lack thereof, colors your perception of an employee from a management standpoint. 3. Over a decade at the same place, and I finally hit my done point. We knew we were losing people months ago due to various reasons. No one got hired. We were so understaffed, a customer started working for us just to keep us open. This past week, I couldn't stop stressing, and I realized I'm past the point of no return. I've been through so much there, good and bad, but I no longer want anything to do with the place. So I messaged the owner asking to talk. I've been messaging and calling on and off all week. I get an occasional response, but no actual callback or reach out. I don't want to quit through text, and I refuse to. I can't even get a hold of my boss to quit. It reinforces everything I already knew was wrong at that bar, but today I'm finally mad. I'm mad that this place I've worked at and loved so long treated me the way it has. And now my boss does not have the decency to speak to me. I'm aware my leaving may be the moment that means the bar might finally be dead, but that was not my responsibility and should never have been. I sincerely am past the point of caring what my friend and employer is going through. She should be aware, if she even had acknowledged in her heart that she knows I'm leaving, her business might have to make fundamental changes, and most definitely will need to close for a while, but that is not my problem. It's hers. And if she had really cared, she would have done things different. I don't care anymore if she's avoiding me because she knows or doesn't. I don't care if she's stressed and overwhelmed. I don't care if she starts saying things behind my back or using her staff as an excuse for her failures. I'm over it. My final paycheck is still with her on top of it all. We have been closing more and more often due to staffing issues. When I called in Wednesday, I never was even asked why, and then she closed the whole week. I have had so many people reach out to me asking what is going on, and I give polite generic responses. I've had all week to cry, laugh, and commiserate with friends and the last 2 remaining bartenders. Though that is a term filled with lies because we are expected to do every job, including barback and cook and waitress. But today I finally allowed just mad to exist. I'm goddamn good and mad, and I deserve to be. I've made mistakes, plenty of them. I know damn well, though, that I've given more than I've been given, and to have my boss dodge me for a full week is the next beyond. Excuse my ranting, and keep your fingers crossed for my future. And if you're someone who knows me and recognized me from this post, please understand, this has been too late in coming, and she's not the first person to run a business into the ground, especially after everything that has happened to the industry lately. I have an interview on Monday. I'll forever miss my home bar that raised me and taught me, but I'm done. Update. Just in case someone was wondering, I have a new job already. I had hopes, but life is uncertain. I hope this works out. To anyone wondering if they should quit, now is the time. Please take the advice of people who have been serving a long time. When it's time to go, it's time to go. Wish me luck. And I wish luck to anyone out there struggling right now. 4. So I'm currently in college. I was tired of dealing with low pay, hour cuts, and slow-paced work as a retail employee. My mom suggested I try serving. She told me it would pay more and would be flexible. Of course, she never worked in the service industry, so she didn't know, and neither did I. I've never cried so much at a job before. Sure, I've had bad days at my previous retail gigs, but they were few and far between. However, at this hibachi restaurant, I have had full-on breakdowns of intense sobbing. The clientele this place attracts are insanely rude. On top of that, I've had coworkers who flat out ignore you when you go to check on drinks or sushi. I've been yelled at over the most silliest things, yet a chef was allowed to rudely interrupt me. And customers, while I was grabbing drink orders at my table over rice bowls, despite the fact that she didn't start cooking. I don't know about you guys, but there's something demeaning about the people you tip out 10% of your earnings, treating you like shit with no consequences, and your condescending manager sweeping it under the rug, and saying the only reason you have problems is because you don't know how to close out tables right, or whatever random BS they come up with to avoid solving the actual issue at hand. Yeah, I've only been here 3 months. I'm not going to be perfect, but don't blame me for your rude chefs or clientele. As if the only reason I'm crying is because I suck at my job. I'm crying because I can't focus on my job when I'm being stepped on by guests and my coworkers. You think it's okay to make fun of someone for crying? Here, at this toxic place. I've been hit with racial insults and been physically assaulted. I was pushed and I couldn't find any managers when this happened. When I did find a manager, I was told I should have hit her back. You're looking down on me for crying? And of course, when it got out that I put my 2 weeks in, one of my awesome managers said, "I'm surprised you lasted this long." It's crazy, because my mom wants me to try and stay. I don't know, guys. Since I'm inexperienced, I don't know if this is normal and I'm too sensitive. Narrator's note, it's not normal. On the other hand, maybe I'm making a great decision jumping ship and trying again at a more traditional restaurant. That's not having you deal with 16 top tables made up of different groups of people, where all you need is one loudmouth guest to persuade half the table to tip you $3 on a $200 bill. 5. I recently found a new job after losing my serving job due to COVID. About a week and a half at this new job, I finally sat a family of 3. Mom, dad, and preteen daughter. I greet them and introduce myself, asking if I can start them with beverages. They're perfectly polite, and I return with drinks. Then dad says to me, Don't you recognize me?" I'm confused. "No, sir."
Are you kidding me? We left you a really great tip. We were here just a month ago.
Sir, I wasn't working here a month ago. I was hired 2 weeks ago.
No, you were our waitress and I tipped you. A lot.
Now he was getting angry and insisted I was lying. His wife looked embarrassed. Then he started trying to be passive-aggressive, but honestly, he wasn't very good at it. Anytime I walked past his table or checked on them, he would say something like, "Wow, you're giving such great service," or "You're doing amazing, great job." To try to rectify once more, I asked him directly, "Sir, are you truly upset with me? I really was not employed here a month ago. I believe today is my 10th day here." He was still passive-aggressive, saying, "Oh, no, you're wonderful," and grinning like a madman. I just smile and say, "Okay." Honestly, I thought it was funny that he was upset about this, and it didn't really bother me. I'd always reply "thank you" to his fake compliments. Towards the end of their meal, I stopped by to offer dessert or a check. The manager happened to be walking past, and I say to her, "Hey, these guys were in here just a month ago, and they can't believe that I don't remember them." My manager chuckles and says, "Well, that's because we hadn't hired you yet," then walks off. The dad is giving me a death glare because I just proved that I was honest and that he'd been mistreating me all evening. When I brought the check, which was digital, he was asking how to tip less than the 15 to 25% the machine had offered as a suggestion. "I want to tip you exactly 6.2%. How do I tip exactly 6.2%? That's all you're getting, exactly 6.2%. His wife was mortified and asked him to lower his voice, but mostly just stared down at the table. I point and show him where to type the custom tip percentage. He keeps trying to look into my soul to make sure he's upset me. I can't help but picture a toddler screaming and crying while watching him having a tantrum. I had no fucks to give. I let him know I definitely remember him next time. I'm thinking about calling him 6.2% generous tip guy, or maybe just 6.2% when I see him next. 6. I have never quit a job without giving notice before in my life, but I did it yesterday, because I could not stand my co-workers a single minute longer. I worked at this last job for 3 months, and for the first 2 months working there was great, except for the customers. That place has the absolute worst customer base of any place I've ever been in. But the co-workers I kept getting scheduled to work with were very nice, and the managers weren't terrible. However, some of the co-workers I had were extremely toxic people. But it wasn't too much of an issue because I rarely ever had to work with them. Then one of the managers left and got replaced by someone who was also extremely toxic. Shortly after that, they changed my schedule around and I started getting put with the toxic co-workers and manager every single shift. The toxic people. Kyle is a felon. Is an associate manager yet refuses to train anybody. Is constantly complaining about other people not doing their job, yet he refuses to do his own job. Instead of trying to help new hires who have little to no food service experience, he badmouths them to managers to try and get them fired and bullies them into quitting, because he's stupid enough to think that whoever replaces them will be someone he won't have to train. He literally brags about how he'll get anybody fired who he doesn't think is working hard enough. Jessica is literally incapable of communicating to somebody in a way that is not extremely rude, condescending, and nasty. Also refuses to try and help any new hires. Once witnessed her barking orders at a new hire. New guy tells her that the thing she just asked him to do is something he doesn't know how to do yet, and asks her to show him how to. She stares at him, angrily, and then stomps away. I also had to deal with her for 2 weeks, ordering me around and yelling at me for both minor screw-ups and things that weren't even screw-ups. She isn't even a manager. Jeff, the toxic manager. Extremely bitter, toxic, middle-aged man who is extremely racist. He also actively encourages Jessica being intolerable because I guess he's happy to be able to work with someone as bitter and rude as he is. He would go and yell at other co-workers on her behalf for her, and literally force people to do her work. Before anybody asks, if Jeff and Jessica were banging, I'd be surprised, since they're both gay. He is also impossible to have a conversation with, because he wants to talk over you and one-up you as much as possible. Yesterday I received an offer for a decently paying 9-to-5 office job in the field that I've been trying to get into the past few months. I was scheduled to work that day, and I was intending to give my 2 weeks' notice, but I checked my schedule and realized that I would be working with Jeff, Jessica, and Kyle again. I decided, you know what? Screw this, I'm quitting. Without notice. I texted Jeff telling him that I wasn't coming in that day, or any other day after that, ever again. Shortly after, Jessica texted me. Jeff must have given my number to her, saying, "I'm so glad you're finally gone." I responded telling her that, yeah, I know, right? I get a 70% raise, don't have to deal with customers, work front of house, get paid holidays, dental and vision, and best of all, I don't have to deal with you, and blocked her number. I'm so glad to be free. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 150. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Another 6 this week. That's not the new standard. We'll still have 5 when it works out lengthwise. I've just got this thing where I like my videos to be at least 20 minutes long, minimum. So, if that means more stories, more stories. Alright, let's see. Saturday. Oh, yes! You've probably heard me whinging on a little bit in previous outros about an upcoming Phasmophobia update. Well, it dropped a few days early. It was meant to be the end of the month, or earlier, and sure enough, earlier. Dropped on Thursday. I've had a little peek at it, not too much of a peek, I don't want to ruin everything for myself, but it does look very good and exciting. So I'm hoping to explore that a little bit on Friday when I'm done with work, depending on how much work I have to do on Friday, and probably more during the Saturday gaming stream. So hopefully you guys can join me for that, and if you have the game yourself, you're welcome to pop in. The only thing is, we usually use the Discord chat for the audio on the game. I tend to turn down the game chat because it's annoying. Plus, it feels weird if people die in the game and they suddenly can't talk to us. I don't want people feeling left out. So we usually do that. So if you have the game, you are welcome to join in. And I will post a Discord link in the stream as I do it, usually anyway. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.